Hello and welcome to another Final Fantasy XIV video with me, Meoni. The Forbidden Land of Eureka is something that has both caught positive and a lot of negative responses from a community on various forums and Reddit, and I want to talk briefly about what I feel after spending the better part of a week doing it. To note any form of credibility, I took the time to level to level 19 elemental level and a half, farmed over 4,000 protean crystals and an innumerable amount of Animos crystals, obtained 2 Animos relic weapons and a full set of Animos white mage armor. So I'd like to think that now I have some form of finished opinion on patch 4.25's iteration of this content. So firstly, the pros, the community aspect. This is something that I whine on about missing from the old World of Warcraft days, where everyone knew everyone on a server, and consequences resulted in blacklisting from countless people, preventing you from being able to do content if you were known to be a dick publicly. This resulted mostly in a better atmosphere on servers in World of Warcraft, and it's to some argument why a lot of people who played it back in the Burning Crusade expansion of that game, or before that, to go on about liking that version better. It's 2018 and party finders and duty finders are in almost every MMO on the market. It is time to deal with a certain amount of anonymity, and that I understand, and actually enjoy the increased pool of players to do content with, especially when we need to cover missing spots in a static group for savage progression each week. It's an absolute godsend. But when it comes to open world areas, Final Fantasy XIV in particular, for the most part, falls to a similar problem with these other multiplayer games, whereupon you are finding whole sections empty and barren. Aside from hunt link shells, which I am actually a part of 3, daily quest hubs and certain content hotspots, a lot of the game is dry on meeting new people in open environments. If you hop into Eureka, you are immediately thrust into an 144 player sized instance full of people leveling and grinding monsters and notorious monster fates, forming 8-man parties to ensure gold credit on the fates, and generally having a laugh and sometimes arguments in shout chat. It's an environment that promotes tagging along and forcing the spawns of certain NMs by being at places at certain times of day and certain weather conditions, and for the most part, albeit 144 slots, you start to actually recognise familiar faces here and there. There are people I've met in Eureka over the past few days that have been going in nearly as much as myself, farming hours and hours to get Animos crystals to exchange for that next piece of gear. It can be very romanticised if I let it here, but the truth is that I've actually been able to form both friendships and meet several of my viewers who took the extra time to send me a message if they saw me inside Eureka, going around and taking down the same bosses together and chatting away. Of course, there are the bad eggs inside there, and that's to be expected with such a large pool of players, but the content is much more open, allowing players of all skill levels to hang out together and accomplish something that everyone wants to get. The second pro I would like to mention is the amount of cool rewards you can obtain currently. Right, so there are minions, 3 of which, 1 mount, some barding, 3 odd complete glamour sets, standalone glamour pieces, materia, crack clusters, orchestron rolls, tabletop items, and of course a dyeable set of up-to-date 350 item level artifact armor and a 355 item level dyeable weapon that's actually pretty good for some classes and bad for others. I'm looking at you, white mage staff. This is only the first part of Eureka, and that's all we can really judge at this time, but this is a great amount of actual stuff to be in one iteration of the grand content scheme that they've got planned for this. The variation and ease to get the items as well is something that should go towards a pro for this. It's pure RNG rewarded by actually playing the game. As much as people might complain about drop rates, I spent a week in there and got almost every item from the lockboxes and worked my way towards 20. It sort of goes hand in hand. Slower players will find much more replayability than myself, and that's a good thing because there's plenty for that audience to go back for, and enough weapons and gear that require an inordinate amount of protean and Animos crystals for the rest of us to work on. Regardless of who you are, there's probably something in there for either right now or to save time in future updates, where the gear is likely going to be a lot more powerful than it is now, and possibly best in slot by the end of Stormblood. The world is rich and fresh, plenty of different biomed areas, caves, forests, giant tree branches, fields, wild, torn plains, waterlogged marshes and coastlines. A lot of work went into the art design and direction of Eureka, and it feels exactly as it should, a weird, deformed island virtually indistinguishable from the original Isle of Val that Kryl mentions in her text. The flora and fauna are all unique and interesting, and the Notorious Monsters themselves either give reference to the area you fight them in and what they might have once been, or hark back to Final Fantasy XI in some way or another, mixing nostalgia, fresh zone design and engaging boss battles in areas filled with creatures brings the entire island to life. On to the cons, the things that I would like to see either changed or things I generally dislike. Animos exchange. Why is there no simplified way to exchange Animos crystals? You need over 4,000 of them for one set of gear and a weapon. How in internal testing did they not think of finding an easier solution to this exchange system than doing it one at a time by clicking your mouse? Same for the lockboxes. It physically hurts to exchange this much, and I would like to hope that they will add a solution for this in the future to save my hands. Story quests. They're too spread out in levels. There's a series of cutscenes that I won't talk about, the massive spoilers, that come at level 17 that honestly came out of nowhere. You spend so long leveling in here that you forget why you're even here plot-wise. I would have preferred that instead of breaking the Magicite into quest rewards only, that they simply did some discovery type quests to break down the monotony, or maybe add daily quests in here that reward a few Animos crystals or something. There's a lack of quests or substance to any of the other NPCs here, and I think that's rather unusual for Final Fantasy XIV, and I'd like to see more backstory. Make them optional, I don't care, something is better than nothing. Another point is that Notorious Monsters were something in Final Fantasy XI that could be farmed for and possibly exclusively to your own group. It's something that in 14 isn't the case, and as a result the Fate Train, as it's called, is the best way to level, where players follow each other around the map and hunt monsters to force spawns to get the most XP per hour. Without sounding like a sadist, I think, for example, a level 17 Notorious Monster shouldn't really award anything to a level 2 player. It's cool that they got there and they're getting gold credit from their group, but to boost levels significantly from just doing a higher level NM Fate than they currently are feels quite odd to me. There needs to be a form of progression to vie to level through grinding and low level NMs to get to the point where you can take on a tougher boss. And I didn't feel that this was the case. I ran around like everyone else and did my best not to die and hit the boss as much as possible, and was even doing Pazuzu at level 10. And I think that's probably all I can really think of for now in terms of pros and cons. In general, I feel like it took me a while to grind, which is intentional, but it really wasn't that difficult. It opened up possibilities to meet and play with people on many other servers in casual, chilled environments, just killing monsters for hours and having a laugh. I felt rewarded upon finally getting feathers from Pazuzu upon reaching level 19 and putting my various weapons together, getting the minions and the mount and reading the various texts on these things, and generally engaging with what's here in the first iteration of Eureka has actually been a blast. I feel that even though I have a majority of the rewards, I would like to continue to farm for future gear sets, and even to start saving up Animos crystals for the possible way to exchange them in the future. It got me out there into a new world and forced me to slightly engage with people, and I think anything that takes people away from their city-states and retainer bells just for a couple of hours a day is a great thing, and people need to realise that this content is for the most part optional and encouraged. They could learn something new about themselves by involving themselves with others. That's my experience anyway, and I'm sure you'll all have your own opinions and concerns about this content going into the future. There are actually ways to properly give feedback on things like this, and that's usually through the official forums. I'm sure there's various threads for feedback on Eureka there. We're actually onto a good thing with Eureka. They just need to tidy a few things up and listen to various feedback, and perhaps make changes to suit a more casual player a little bit more, but as a whole I enjoyed it, and you should definitely try and give it a go if you can. can, let me know what you think of Eureka below, and try to respect other people's opinions. Remember, opinions are like arseholes, everyone has them, and yours may not be everyone's cup of tea, so don't force it on them. Keep it civil, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.